Hey, this is Michael from Machination Studio. In this series of videos, I will be covering the assembly of the Mk.I Cyclops using the builder kit as an example. I'm going to first show you guys what kind of tools that will be needed for this project. You're going to need a file, you can use Sandpaper, a wire cutter with a flat edge, that'll be the best. A size 0 screwdriver or 3mm screwdriver. Regular electric is fine. A small hand drill, 1mm or 1.5mm drill bit is fine. And some long nose pliers. Get yourself some 2-part epoxy glue. You can get them in lots of hardware stores. If not, you can get some super glue. I like to get the glue in small tubes because unless you do a lot of modeling, it's high chance of your glue drying out on you. Get 6 AA batteries ready. I'm using rechargeables and I recommend using rechargeables. Alright, let's get started. So while most of this project is going to be assembled by screws, there's going to be a couple of pieces that are going to be needing some gluing. So I'm going to start with those pieces because I'm going to give some time for the glue to dry up. I'm using 2-part epoxy, but yeah, I guess super glue would do as well, but yeah, I recommend using the 2-part epoxy. The first parts I want to work on is the base plate and these 2 little servo attachments. I will be showing you how to clean this up. The next part is the ammunition drum for the Gatling gun. And the last part would be the 3 barrels for the Gatling gun. Alright, these will be needed to be glued on there. So I'm going to start with this base. This base is designed in such a way that there's a letter F etched on it. And using the letter F, you can orientate yourself whether you're looking at the top of the board or the bottom, or which direction it's facing. So I'll always be referring to the letter F. So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that the parts you're going to be gluing will have no paint on it. So the parts are going to be pre-painted for the builder kit. So you're going to have to sand away or file away these bits. Don't file too far out, otherwise this bits you're going to lose the paint and the color on these bits. The reason for this is to make sure that there is plastic to plastic bonding instead of paint to paint bonding. Yeah, so these 2 little pegs need to be sanded on all the 4 sides. Actually, we can file this base bit as well. Right, next thing, hopefully you found a file that is small enough to go in the hole. You can file away the insides of the hole. Yeah, so try to find a small file for this. Yeah, don't overdo it because you don't want to, make it too loose. So I think most people with a bit of a toolbox should be able to have all the parts that they need to do this. So the next part is if you take the middle servo with the M on the wire, you want to orientate it in such a way at the bottom of the plate with the bronze part, facing where the letter F is facing. So if you look at the servo, once this side has got 3 holes and the other side has got 4 holes. So this little piece with the 3 holes will be in the center, closer to the letter F, and this piece with the 4 holes will be further away. So we're going to have to glue these pieces together. So you can actually use the blister from the packaging, as your little palette. Yeah, I like to get very small tubes, unless you're an avid modeler, your glue is going to go bad after 1 or 2 projects. You're going to have to get new ones anyway. So the way the two-part epoxy works is that you want to have equal amounts of each tube. So I'm just going to use my eyes to estimate how much it is. I'm just going to make a very small dollop. And I'm going to try to make this other one about the same size. It's probably close enough. So you can get yourself a ice cream stick or a cocktail stick and mix it together. I just do this kind of a little swirly thing. The glue hardens pretty fast, so you want to do this pretty quick. So the very easy way is just to use the cocktail stick to do lots of swirls in there, mix it up. So just use the cocktail stick to apply glues into all the points that you would need. So these will be sticking out the bottom of the plate. So if you look at the F is upside down. So the piece with the 3 holes would be right in the center of the plate. We're going to do the same for this piece with the 4 holes. Two-part epoxy is a pretty strong glue. So you shouldn't have to ever worry about these pieces coming off, especially now that you've removed the paint and gotten plastic to plastic contact. So there we go. So I'm going to leave this for a while to let it harden. Shouldn't take too long. The next thing would be the gun barrels. You can choose the sides that look better to be the ones facing the front. And these will have to go in the hole. You might want to do the same thing as and file away the paint on the sides of the barrels. So I'm just going to use my thumb to hold that. There's probably about 1/4 of an inch or slightly less than that of paint you want to file off. So test for fitting first. The hole might not be exactly fitting, so you might have to drill it out. I usually use a 5.5mm drill for that, but it should be fine. But in case it's not, you might have to drill out those holes. So I'm just gonna get the epoxy and just slather the insides and stick the 3 barrels in. So for the front holder, I do the same. I slathered the glue on the inside, and I'm just sliding it into, sliding the 3 barrels into it. How far you push this down is really up to you. I just want to make sure that all 3 barrels are kind of parallel to each other. So yeah, with that we are done with this. With these pieces in place, the barrel should stay intact. Should be fine. You can wipe away the excess epoxy glue, and that's the good thing over super glue, is you can before it hardens, you can wipe it off. The last bit is this ammo drum. I'm just going to use whatever leftover glue and apply it to the small piece and apply it to the groove here. So this is not taking much load, so it doesn't really matter, don't put on too much glue, just enough for it to hold together. There's a notch over here, you can see that. Align the notch with the groove, and that should do it. Just wipe away a bit of the excess glue, and we're going to leave this one side. And that's it. That's all the gluing for the moment. You can keep the glue and we can proceed to the next step. So we're going to look at the electronics now. The first thing is that you got the battery pack, so put in your 6 AA batteries. I recommend rechargeables. It's connected to a switch, to a power connector, a voltage regulator, and another connector over here. You have 2 motors here, a geared motor and a vibration motor. The small servo, a bunch of LEDs, and the LEDs are marked 0, 1, 2, and 4. I'll explain that a little bit more later. Stereo connectors, again these are marked, and a little tiny connector here. 2 boards, the Arduino UNO and a breakout board of my own design. So I'll be talking about some of the unique characteristics of the board. The Arduino UNO is based on the Arduino UNO, so it's got the analog rail over there and the digital pins over there. A0 to A5 and digital 0 to 13. The unique characteristic of this board is got the servo headers on the board itself. So these servo headers correspond with the analog pins, these with the digital pins. So the red rail here is the power, the voltage rail. The blue rail is the ground, and the yellow rail is the signal. And of course, it's correspond pin 0 with the first row there, and 13. It doesn't have any markings here because I don't know, they've got plenty of space there to do the silk screen, but they didn't do it. Another interesting characteristic is it's got this switch here that switches between 3.3 volts and 5 volts. For this model, I'll always switch it to 5 volts. And I'll always be referring to this in this orientation with the power connector and USB facing down. So the other board is a little breakout board of my own design. It's got my logo on it. So this connects to the 14 digital pins and 1 ground pin. So there's 15 pins on this side. So there are 5 LED pins over here. We'll be using 4. 3 motor pins over here. We'll only be using 2 for this model. And a power voltage pin there, and 2 additional pins here for if you want to connect up a smoke machine. So right, let's start with the LEDs first. The LEDs are marked 0, 1, 2, and 4. These correspond to this breakout board. This you see this little LED marking here. There's 5 pins over here. So the first 2 pins correspond with 0, and so yeah, I'm gonna get the 0, which is the red LED. It goes into the first socket with the red wire facing upwards and the black wire facing downwards with the side of the logo. Next we 1, 2. We're gonna skip number 3. 3 is just an extra one, and go straight to 4. So that's the LEDs. Next you can take the vibration motor and the geared motor. For the geared motor, you see number 8. And that's the topmost motor pin. And vibration motor is 11. It'll be the middle pin. So if you trace the connectors, you can see that it goes number 8 goes to the 8 pin, and the middle, goes to 11 pin. One more thing will be this little connector will go into that voltage in pin there. Let's put this aside. So we come to the main Arduino board. And we take these 4 stereo connectors. So you separate the one with 3 wires and those with 2 wires. So there'll be 3 with 2 wires. The ones with 2 wires will be marked, one of them will be marked A0. And they go onto the yellow rail here, the signal pins. A0 goes in the first 2 pins, with the black wire facing down towards the power connector. The next one will be A2. A2 will be the next 2 pins. Again, black facing towards the power connector. And A4 will be going into the last 2 pins. Black to the power connector. So this will be the tree on this side. So they will correspondingly be barrels 1, 2, and 3. For this stereo connector number 4, it says over there, look for number 7. So number 7 works like this. We start with 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then plug them in. So the way to connect this is that the red wire goes into the red rail, the black goes into the blue rail, and the white wire goes into the yellow rail, all on that 7th row. The small servo will say number 10. So you can measure 7, 8, 9, 10. As like mentioned, the breakout board connects to the 0 to 13 digital pins. Line it up against the top. And this wire goes into any of the red rails, so I like to use the ones on A0 for this. You can plug in your power now. The barrel goes in there. And for this wire coming out of the voltage regulator, it goes into this 6 pins in this corner. So the red wire will go into the extreme corner, and the black wire will be 2 further down, 2 above it. So make sure this is on 5 volts. So we can turn this on to test if it's working. And see if it's got on the right firmware. So after 5 seconds, you should see that the yellow LED lights are flat flickering and the red LED starts blinking. So this will tell you that you are on the right firmware. So this is the way it should look.